Well, thank you so much for staying with Younib TV, particularly the Morning Momentum. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, use the hashtag the Morning Momentum at Younib Media TV at Alfonsoh Albakwekwe. Of course, you are rolling with the host with the most. Alfonsoh is my name. Let's take a look at the Daily Nation, how GACHAGUA was cornered. Now, on his way out, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's fate now lies with the Senate or the courts, after President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga yesterday whipped their members in the National Assembly to vote for the impeachment motion against the DP. The embattled second in command, who put up a spirited fight for his job, even playing video clips of his boss in defense, is now praying for a miracle to keep him in office. That story is beefed up for you on page 2 all the way to page 10 of the Daily Nation. In other stories, patients still paying cash for services as SHIF chaos persists. Patients are still being asked to pay cash to hospitals as confusion over the Social Health Authority persists. The government is yet to honor the promise to refund those who paid for health services out of pocket during Social Health Authority rollout last week. On page 11, grand haste, KNTC admits Kenyans lost 6.6 billion shillings in cooking oil scam. On the cover page, on the back page of the Daily Nation this morning, 126 million payout to 6 judges. Uhuru rejected. Justices win award for discrimination. Now, also on page 29 on sports news, we'll take a look at that. Let's take a look at page 2 of the Daily Nation. Now, 281 MPs vote to send GACHAGUA home. Senate is expected to hold a sitting to consider the charges within 7 days after being notified of the resolution by the National Assembly Speaker. Deputy President played a number of video clips as part of his evidence in the National Assembly, including some showing President Ruto berating his cabinet members and attacking the Inspector General of Police and DCI boss when he served as Uhuru's deputy president. On page 3, Parliament on lockdown as MPs debate ouster motion. Security in and around Parliament Road and Nairobi's Central Business District was beefed up yesterday as Parliament considered the impeachment motion against Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. The nation has learned that the decision to increase patrols and deploy anti-riot police was aimed at countering disruption of the House proceedings. That story is briefed up for you on page 3. Let's move on and take a look at page 4. GACHAGUA revisits pre-poll deals to defend his shareholding stance. Now, motion mover Mutuse cites his utterances and conduct as a basis for removal from office. Mudavadi, Wetangula and Kingi initiated the shareholding scheme in government, Deputy President says. That story is briefed up for you on page 4. On page 5, Mount Kenya's options amid push to oust DP. Actors in the GACHAGUA and Kenyatta camps have closed ranks and have been holding strategy meetings. The ground in Mount Kenya continues to harden against Ruto, with the locals exploring 3 possible routes in preparation for the 2027 polls. Now, the options at crossroads, the first one is to stick with Ruto, the second one is to abandon Ruto and pursue alternative alliances, and the third option is form on political party and target post-election coalition. That story is briefed up for you on page 7. Let's take a look at on page 6. GACHAGUA at odds with his boss on police abductions. DP accuses Haji of misleading the president, who has denied knowledge of forced disappearances. Deputy President reiterates he's a truthful man and cannot keep silent or support actions that are unconstitutional. That story is briefed up for you on page 6. On page 7, rough ride for presidency if DP survives removal. Deputy President has said impeachment has the president's backing. Some of Mr. GACHAGUA's colleagues in cabinet have supported his removal. That story is beefed up for you on page 7. On page 7 still, why lawyers praised Nderitu GACHAGUA's will, if any, of Nderitu Gachagua's beneficiaries dared contest what he left them in his will, drafted just 7 days before the former Nyeri governor died, then they would lose everything. That was how far Nderitu was willing to go to stop any bickering or protracted court cases that would invite the public into private family affairs. That story is lifted up for you on page 7. On page 8, media new darling of Deputy President after years of bearing the nuisance tag. In February 2023, DP prompted a response from the Media Council of Kenya when he lashed out at journalists. The very mouth that uttered praises on Monday night was spewing fire at journalists on various occasions previously. That story is beefed up for you on page 8. Let's move on and take a look at page 10. Professor Saitoti, the vice president who was poisoned. Despite his paranoia, Professor George Saitoti was a master schemer, corrupt to the core and deeply enmeshed in a web of intricate deals where deceit and death intertwined. That story is beefed up for you on page 10. On page 11, grand haste. KNTC admits to loss of 6.6 billion shillings in cooking oil scam. State contracted farms to import edible oil in an effort to lower prices, but the project was rocked by graft. That story is covered for you on page 11. Corporation officials say the money was lost due to fluctuation in exchange rates, clearance and warehousing costs. That story is beefed up for you on page 11. On page 12, Ruto writes to African leaders on Raila AUC bid. Now, President and Mr. Odinga engaged with the leaders at the UN in New York. PS plays down the Anglophone and Francophone divide in the ongoing campaigns, and you want to catch up with more of that story on page 12. Let's take a look at those statistics. 7 member states of the East African Community have expressed support for Mr. Odinga's bid, PS says. Now, on page 13 of the Daily Nation this morning, patients settle bills in cash as chaos persists. Government officials continue giving promises as families look for cash to settle medical bills. Authorities give statements at press conferences, but patients, hospital workers interviewed say things are different on ground. That story is beefed up for you on page 13. Now, the amounts what patients is paying for a dialysis is 9,500 Kenya shillings at the moment. They are paying it in cash. Now, let's take a look at the expert opinion, propelling leadership of women by mentorship. As we celebrate the International Day of Girl Child, it is a time to reflect on the values and partnerships that shape our global identity. One partnership that has made significant strides in promoting gender equality and women's empowerment is the collaboration between Canada and UN Women in Kenya. You want to catch up with more of those opinions on page 14 and page 15. Now, for the motoring enthusiasts, you have the DN2 motoring article beefed up for you. Today it's all about securing the load. Here are 4 ways to ensure the safety of luggage on pickups and double cabs. You will catch up with that on the DN2 motoring article. Let's shift gears and take a look at county news. Kangata's youth healthcare plans shortlisted for Continental Awards. Kangata Care MYS have been shortlisted for awards recognizing innovation in the public service. The AAPAM Awards aim to encourage, promote, and recognize creativity and innovations in public sector institutions. All right, that story is beefed up for you on page 17. Let's take a look at Taita Taveta County. Strike by medics bears woes in county's finances. The recent strike by healthcare workers has once again exposed the deep-seated issues plaguing the country's finances. Despite the return of the medics to work, the county government's failure to remit statutory and third-party deductions remains a significant concern. Now, in Baringo County, outrage as Kabarnet town wallows in dirt. The garbage bins have not been emptied for the past 2 weeks and are overflowing. The municipality's management blames its filthy state on understaffing and financial constraints. That story is beefed up for you on page 18. All right, let's shift gears and take a look at the international news. Election likely to extend Frelimo's 50-year rule. Nyusi's government dealt with fallout of tuna bond scandal. Chapo pledges to pursue talks with the leaders of the insurgency. That story is beefed up for you on page 20. Briefly, in Addis Ababa, AU congratulates new president. African Union Commission chairperson Musa Faki Mahamat has congratulated Tai Atske on his appointment as Ethiopia's president. The two houses of Ethiopian parliament appointed Foreign Minister Atske, the country's president, on Monday. In Lusaka, Zambia, mine collapse kills 10 in central Zambia. At least 10 miners died while 5 others were injured when a pit collapsed in Mumbwa district, police said on Monday. Charity Muganga Chanda, the Central Province Police Commissioner, said the collapse happened in the early hours of Monday. Now, in Russia, Russian forces reach secondly frontline city, Ukraine admits. Russian forces have entered the outskirts of the Ukrainian city of Toretsk less than a week after the fall of the bastion town of Vuhladar. More of those international news is beefed up for you on page 20. Let's take a look at business news on page 22. Credit to mining doubles after lift of permit freeze. Loans extended to players in the sector grows to 48 billion shillings in year to July. 400 new companies have ventured into the industry. That story is beefed up for you on page